Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Jane Widdop about Yellowjackets on Showtime. Welcome to the show. It's good to see you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
It's pretty crazy because, you know, we talked about before we started. I mean, the show is so cool. Like, even if people haven't seen an episode yet, like the trailer, it's just there's so much kind of happening.
Yes.
What's your mindset when you book it compared to now that it's finally out? Like, what's that difference like?
Yeah.
I'm curious about that.
Well, I booked the role November 2019. So
Wow. Okay.
I've had this role for a while.
Pre-pandemic.
Yeah. We shot the episode December 2019, right before the world shut down.
Yeah.
And then we didn't know if we were going to get picked up or not. And then I got a call like beginning of 2021 and they were like, we're greenlit, we're shooting in Canada. I was like, great. And so we started shooting in April and then finished at the beginning of October. But I think from there to now, I've definitely grown a lot as a human just after everything that's happened.
Oh, for sure.
But I think that it actually works out perfectly for every character because in episode 2, we pick up right post-crash.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us inherently have like a little bit of trauma from this year. And you can just like, you can see that there's a shift, but they've done an excellent way of portraying it like, oh, it's just, you know, the trauma that has just happened. But I definitely think everybody really grew into their characters over that year, even though we weren't playing them. And we were able to ruminate on it a lot more, which I think helped with our characters.
There's so much going on. We're going to get into it specifically in your character. But the one thing that I just realized, and it's kind of my first question to get everything going here, is, you know, there's two kind of things that the show does that's very powerful in storytelling these days. I mean, one, it's an ensemble cast. Like, it's an ensemble cast. Like, there's a lot of you cast members,
Yes.
which is amazing. But it also deals with flashbacks. And I feel like flashbacks are something we've seen, like, for years on television. But I feel like people seem to find new ways of doing it now, and it's just evolved. What's it feel like being on a show that has such a big cast and also plays with the flashback component as well?
Well, being on a big cast, I mean, the older cast especially, like, we really had barely interaction with them because we're not supposed to.
No.
But what I think was really, really unique about it is the way that they've weaved both of these storylines together in a way that is, you don't get distracted. You're not like, oh, I'm confused about the past. Like, they all mesh so well together. And I think this is really displayed in the first episode when you see Shauna, younger Shauna in the plane, and she turns her face and then it's older Shauna. And so it's like everything just kind of flows. Ashley and Bart have done an amazing job of just being able to make sure everything flows throughout the entire season, especially with like the back and forth.
100%. It's hard to do. I mean, the first episode aired. I mean, it's hard to do these interviews too, though, without going into like spoilers, because I kind of want people to go in fresh. I want them to see it. Tell us about the show a little bit, but specifically with your character, without getting into spoilers. But like, tell them that, give them the tease to go watch it.
There's not much I can say without
It's tough, right?
revealing. Yeah.
Plane crash soccer team.
Yeah, I think
You're on the soccer
Laura
team,
Lee,
right? Yeah.
I think the thing with Laura Lee is she's very underestimated at the beginning. But what I love about her is, and what I love about all people who have such strong faiths, is that it takes a lot to destroy that.
Yes.
And they're very, very strong and powerful in that. And I love that about Laura Lee and her character arc that she takes. But she's going to have some unexpected twists and turns that I don't think anybody is expecting.
There's already like twisted turns in the first episode.
Oh, yeah. But it's, I mean, as we were getting each episode, we were like, what? We were not expecting any of these plot twists, but there's so many.
I feel like the show does such a good job of blending like the horror component, the thriller component, the survival component. Like, I feel like it just is this big, like, three-headed monster of, like, all these genres and everything happening. Is that something you noticed when you were making this show as well?
Yeah, and I also noticed that there's an element of comedy to it that one would not expect.
Yep,
and
I could see that.
Yeah, I've always loved comedy, and I kind of loved that in the first episode, Laura Lee was like that punchline of, you know, oh, shut up, Laura Lee, like, stop talking.
Get out of here, Laura Lee.
And she brings a levity to it that I love, and that I love about the character. But yeah, I think from all of those standpoints, it's just like you never know what's going to happen next.
No.
And the way that they were able to create like these really gruesome things out in the woods was insane. And everybody's going to get to see a lot of that. But it being in front of it and actually interacting with it is crazy in and of itself.
What were, for you specifically, like, working on this? Because I feel like there's a lot of pretty crazy scenes. There's a lot that's kind of happening. There's a lot of different, you know, because there's like, I mean, it's not a spoiler. I mean, the plane crashes. You're in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's not a spoiler. People see the trailer, but like, what were like learning? I'm curious because there's always gonna be learning experiences no matter what set you work on. Like, what were some learning experiences on Yellowjackets for you specifically?
I definitely think a lot. This TV show tested me and tested my limits, but in a really good way. Few learning experiences. Always wear bug spray when you're out in the woods.
Yeah.
You would think that I would remember that, but
what about making sure your socks for ticks? Did they tell you about that too? Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a whole other thing. Sometimes we like weren't wearing socks in the scene, and I was just like, okay.
That's true. Cool. Yeah.
And wetsuits are a gift from God. that is also one thing I learned during this season. It's
pretty crazy because, I mean, can you really prepare? Like, you get casted for this, you know, you're about to go, you know what to expect a little bit. Can you even like prepare though sometimes for roles, especially like this? I mean, you kind of know what to expect, but like not really, right?
Well, I mean, especially not knowing where your character is going, I think was the hardest part because trauma affects each person completely differently. And I think that's what the show really does beautifully is, you know, this trauma is going to affect a bunch of people in a bunch of different ways. But what was really unique and special about that was getting to see the journey, but you didn't know where it was going to take you. So you were like, okay, should I make this decision? Should I make this decision? So it was kind of a guessing game, but I think it all really, really worked out, especially for each person, because we were able to kind of, without like giving too much away, like I was able to
it's hard, right? It's hard to do these interviews.
I was able to really work with one of the directors for an episode that we did and go through all of the things about my character that I had originally thought before, and he was completely on board, and we were just able to make it mesh well together.
Yep.
Which I think was really cool, and I think everybody had that experience.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I did mention it's got the horror component to it. It's scary at times. The horror genre is just like an unbelievable genre. And although it's not a full like horror show, I just wanted to kind of ask for you specifically, like Jane Widdop, like, are you a fan of horror movies? Like, you watch them? Like, what's that like?
I actually love horror movies.
Okay, good.
My favorite, like, kind of subset of that genre would be psychological thrillers.
Yep.
I've always been super into it. Like, I want to leave a show thinking about it and it being in the back of my head. I'm less of a jump scary person.
They're going away from that though. Like the jump scares, that's like traditional like stuff that they're just kind of like people are scary. There's more ways to scare people.
I know. There's way more ways. You can get inside their brains now. It's insane. But yeah, I've always been such a big fan, and I think when I first read the script in November of 2019, I immediately fell in love with it, and I was like, even if I don't get this, I'm watching it. It is right up my alley.
I've done interviews before where I'm interviewing someone from like a terrifying like horror movie, and the actor is like, I hate horror movies. And I'm like, that to me is the weirdest thing, because obviously making it, right, you know this, right? Like it's different, right? Because you're going in. But like, isn't that kind of weird? Like the scariest movie ever, like the lead actor is like terrified of horror.
Yeah, I mean, if I had that fear, I would be scared to be on set, because there were so many things that we saw that was just like, oh yeah, this is part of work.
I know it's. Are you a fan of the escape rooms? Have you done escape rooms before?
Okay, see, that's the thing. I'm very claustrophobic.
Okay, so probably not. But like, what if it's like a really big one? What if you're on like a plane, like a big plane?
A plane? No, not a plane. Never a plane anymore.
That's why I said it, because of the show.
No.
No, because like they find ways to really, like, there's like escape rooms now that are like horror themed escape rooms that they're ruthless with the scares. Like they don't care.
I've never been able to do that.
Like they don't care. And they hear someone. It's funny. It's like 4 of your friends walk in, and there's like one person who's like, oh my God. And and the people working at the escape room are like around, right? So they're all probably in their walkie-talkies like, hey, that guy in the corner there, like he's our guy. And they target that person.
They'd immediately target me. I do not do well with like in real life horror in front of me. I've never been able to do horror nights at Universal Studios. Never. Not my scene.
The reason I brought up, because there actually was one in Toronto where like you were on like a plane, and you have to like there's actually one that it exists. Like I wasn't just saying. There's one like that where you're like on a plane and you have to like figure out the get the key and like do a thing with the transmission. I don't know. It's this whole thing. People are going to be able to see Yellowjackets. It's going to be long. It's going to be like episodes are going to continue to come out. When they get to watch it, what are you hoping they get out of it specifically?
I think just there's kind of a lesson in each episode, whether it's how to skin a rabbit or just friendship in general. It's going to show how these characters connect with one another on such extreme circumstances. Like, and I think that's what's so beautiful. And I just can't wait for everybody to see each character's crazy, because every character has unexpected moments.
Oh, absolutely. No, for sure. Jane, thank you so much for coming on Popternative to chat about Yellowjackets. This was awesome.
It was amazing.
So Showtime, they're gonna be able to see it. And where can people follow you on social media to keep update with everything?
I am official Jane Widdop on Instagram and Jane_Widdop on Twitter. And that's pretty much it. Also Jane Widdop on TikTok, but not a lot of people follow me on TikTok.
See, I have a TikTok. Like, you know when you say when you're on TikTok, but you're not really on TikTok?
Yes.
I'm just like watching stuff. Like I don't.
Yeah, you're just like watching from the background.
Absolutely. This has been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. You're going to be able to catch Jane Widdop in Yellowjackets on Showtime. Until next time, this is Jane and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.